Hey, what's up? This is Dr. Taylor Krick, Autoimmune Doc with Autoimmune Doc Podcast. And today's video is about keto for multiple sclerosis, some of the science and some of the studies behind how keto could be an effective strategy. Now, this came up recently because I was talking with an MS patient, and we were talking about different things that they'd tried or done, and I said, have you ever considered keto? And then I pulled out these studies that I have behind my desk that I hadn't really looked at for a while, but they're fascinating. And if you are, one of my clients, you've seen I have stacks of studies. So we were on a Zoom call, and I'm showing her, just reading her just the titles of some of these studies. So I went through and took screenshots of each of the studies to just explain how I use these studies to explain to patients and clients how keto could be a valuable tool or a useful strategy to try, because the research is really, really cool behind it. So it all revolves around something called the Kynurenine Pathway. Okay, the Kynurenine Pathway. I'm going to show some pictures of it. But the Kynurenine Pathway is implicated in neuroinflammation, neurodegeneration, some neuroexcitation, and is implicated in MS. So I put this study up there first just to show you Frontiers in Immunology, just the title. And a lot of these, I just have the titles because the titles alone make you think, okay, this is worth trying. You don't need to read the full text, even though they're all available. But yeah, the current evidence for a role of the Kynurenine pathway of tryptophan metabolism. So this Kynurenine pathway has a role in MS. So understanding this Kynurenine pathway, then understanding how keto can affect it, and how some of the studies show that that's kind of the point. So here's an image from a different study that's later in the presentation, but it just shows what the Kynurenine pathway is. So tryptophan is an amino acid. It's most famous for like when you eat turkey on Thanksgiving and you get tired. People say it's because of the tryptophan, because tryptophan can turn to, and honestly, I picked these pictures. I should have picked a better one. Tryptophan can go two different directions. It can go down this way, like the picture seen, or it can turn to 5-HTP, turn to serotonin, and turn into melatonin. So tryptophan can go one way or it can go the other. And we'd rather it go towards serotonin and melatonin and not go down this Kynurenine pathway. But this picture illustrates it. I've got another picture next, but we see tryptophan here turns into this through these enzymes called IDO, especially in TDO. Turns into kynurenine, turns into blah, 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 into quinolinic acid. So quinolinic acid is not good. It increases cell death, it increases apoptosis, it increases or changes protein structures, causes neuron degeneration. So we do not want quinolinic acid. And you can see some of these others too. This kynurenic acid is increased in MS relapse. It's decreased when people are in remission, and there's just different things. This enzyme is decreased. The expression of this enzyme is decreased in the post-mortem MS brain, and so all these different steps are implicated in MS. That's really the takeaway. Here's another one that just shows that tryptophan can go multiple different ways. It can go to the serotonin and melatonin pathway. So if there's disruption in this pathway, it can lead to mood or behavioral or sleep abnormalities, meaning like depression or mood swings or bad sleep because of low serotonin, low melatonin, things like that. Or it can go down this kynurenine pathway. And when it goes down the kynurenine pathway, it can go to certain different places. There's quinolinic acid like we saw before, there's picolinic acid, there's NMDA activity, and so we can get this excitotoxicity-induced neurodegeneration, or we can get energy depletion, both of which are very, very common in MS. Now, if your head's already spinning, just know that I'm just showing you this pathway. This pathway is implicated in MS. These are some of the things that can happen. We know that MS patients have neuroinflammation. We know they have neurodegeneration. That is what MS is. But they also often have mood or sleep issues. They also often have energy depletion as well. So cool, Kynurenine pathway is associated in this. Now, how does keto help? Or what are some studies? And again, let me actually show you these two. There's two more studies that just show that kynurenine is implicated with MS. So scientific reports from Nature Research, Kynurenine Pathway metabolomics predicts and provides insight into the progression of MS. So basically, the metabolomics, the measurements of these kynurenine metabolites, can predict how fast or the progression of your MS. So basically that it's indicated in your progression. Another one, International Journal of Molecular Sciences, kynurenines and multiple sclerosis, the dialogue between the immune system and the central nervous system. So this is an autoimmune condition that's attacking the central nervous system, and this is explaining kind of how the kynurenines are how that happens. Let's talk about some of the studies that show that keto can help with things like this. So this one's non-specific, but just in general, 2014 Journal of Lipid Research, ketogenic diets, mitochondria, and neurological diseases. So we're starting to see some indications that a ketogenic diet can impact mitochondria and can impact neurological disease. But it's nondescript. It's not specific for kynurenine or MS or anything. But this research was started to come out 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. Frontiers in Molecular Neuroscience from 2018. How can a ketogenic diet improve motor function? Now, this isn't, again, specific to MS. This isn't, it could be Parkinson's, could be other motor neuron, upper motor neuron, lower motor neuron neuropathies, etc. But it's going through the mechanisms of how keto supports neuronal function and neuron function and how it can improve motor function. So we're getting a little closer and a little closer and a little closer. Now here we have Journal of Lipid Research again, regulation of kynurenine metabolism by a ketogenic diet. So this study is showing that a ketogenic diet regulates kynurenine metabolism. So now we're getting even closer that this kynurenine pathway that's implicated in MS can be regulated by a ketogenic diet. And these studies, when you read the full text, kind of show that and talk about different things and et cetera. And then this one more, the therapeutic potential of the ketogenic diet in treating progressive MS. And again, there are tons of other studies. These are I just grabbed the ones that I had on my desk that I've used, that I did this research, years ago when keto stuff first started coming out, and I was working with some MS people, and I came across this research, and I was, spent days going through it, and now I've just had these on my desk. And really, quite frankly, haven't pulled them out for a while. So this is not by any means all the evidence that's out there. Now there's a ton more. In fact, I lost about a half hour of my life getting distracted just even putting this presentation together because there's some new studies that it's like, hard to not click on. But the point of this is just that there's evidence. There's plenty of evidence to indicate this. So if you asked your neurologist, would a ketogenic diet help your MS? They'd probably say, no, that'd actually probably be dangerous. But they're not familiar with the evidence, or anybody else that says that. Anybody that says that is, quite frankly, not familiar with the evidence. It's not saying that it's going to be the end-all, be-all miracle cure either, but the evidence suggests that it's a useful strategy to try. So, a couple other things with this. This can be measured. So here's some of this on labs. This is a urinary organic acids test from Great Plains Labs, a common lab that I do. And you see down here these are neurotransmitters, dopamine, and down here the tryptophan metabolites. So 5-HIAA, and then quinolinic acid high, and kynureninic acid is normal. So this person's high for quinolinic acid, and this is what the interpretation says, which is really, really important. So high quinolinic acid may be a sign of inflammation and or neural excitotoxicity. Quinolinic acid is derived from tryptophan, is neurotoxic at high levels. Blah, blah, blah. High quinolinic acid may cause nerve cell death with continuous stimulation. Brain toxicity due to quinolinic acid has been implicated in Alzheimer's, MS, Huntington's, stroke, dementia, HIV, schizophrenia. High levels of quinolinic acid may inhibit heart contractions, cause lipid peroxidation of the brain, not good. and increase apoptosis of astrocytes, which control and regulate the blood-brain barrier. So these are all like not good. Ketogenic acid is also a metal chelator and inhibits enzymes that allow the body to produce glucose when needed. That's really important. That means that if those enzymes are inhibited and your blood sugar drops, your body can't produce more blood sugar. And so you get hypoglycemic, and that's not good for neurons. That's one of the mechanisms by which ketogenic diet helps, is when you run out of gas, you've got this backup tank of ketones that your neurons can use as a fuel source. So really interesting. Excessive immune stimulation and chronic inflammation, resulting in the overproduction of cytokines like interferon gamma, stimulates the overproduction of quinolinic acid. It's an important intermediate when making NAD, which is derived from niacin, which is important for energy production and mitochondrial function and just kind of everything. NAD is like really, 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 really important for kind of every single thing in your body. And phthalates, which are a toxin, inhibit the conversion of quinolinic acid to NAD. So that's going to inhibit, just cellular energy availability for every cell and every system of your body. So yeah, the rest of this is kind of interesting too. And then when I screenshotted this from my lab, I just put in here also that B6 levels in this person were below the means, because B6 is a really important thing for this. And I'm going to show some other things in just a second. But that's Great Plains. This is Genova's urinary organic acids. I quite frankly feel like Genova's, I used to use Genova's, now I use Great Plains a lot. And I feel like Genova's is more sensitive for this marker, for these neuroinflammatory markers. I think that Great Plains has other advantages. That's why I use it more now. But again, in this person, you see in their neurotransmitters, they're high for 5-HIA and borderline high for kynurenate and for quinolinate. And then also, I screenshotted this as well, just other cellular things that we see, kind of run together. They've got some methylation issues. They've got some glutathione issues. That's not uncommon that we'll see these things kind of run together. So some other things just really quickly that impact kynurenine. Cortisol stress will shunt this from going down the serotonin pathway down into the kynurenine direction. B6, this is very, very B6 dependent. So high levels of B6 can be useful or can help, just ensure that things don't go this direction. I also am not a fan of tryptophan supplementation because it could go either way. So if you're wanting serotonin, if you're wanting melatonin, if you're wanting sleep, mood, things like that, you can use 5-HTP. It's not one that I'm using very often, but I think that that's safer than tryptophan because it can't go backwards. Magnesium, really helpful. Berberine have been shown to be helpful. There's other things that are IDO inhibitors too. And then phthalates, knowing if you have phthalates, detoxifying from phthalates. Phthalates are very famous right now for shortening penis length and decreasing sperm size and decreasing testosterone and being linked to infertility. Very, very big problem with our kids especially. And then inflammation or infection. So again, different cytokines like interferon gamma, which interferon gamma is released when we're fighting an infection. It's a Th1 cytokine, and it's going to drive down this kynurenine pathway a little bit more. So constant infection can disrupt your sleep and can disrupt your mood and things because it's creating this neuroinflammation and could also cause, neurological symptoms from that as well. And then inflammation just in general, TNF alpha, different cytokines like that drive this. So we want to decrease inflammation. And then one more note, if you've stuck with me this long, one more note with this is that if you're doing a ketogenic diet for MS, I encourage a lot of olive oil. And the reason being that oleic acid, which is high in olive oil, there's a specific certain mechanism. And there's studies to back this. I didn't put the citation in here, but showing that high oleic acid does certain things to regulatory T cells, which are probably the most important thing with MS progression, is making sure that we have more Tregs than we have tissue damaging Th17 cells. We want to increase Tregs. So using things like olive oil are really helpful. Now, lastly, you might be asking, how do you go keto? And that's not for this. That's not for this podcast, right? Or this video. Get a blood ketone meter. I talk about it in a bunch of other places. Get a blood ketone meter. Get a Keto Mojo. That's exactly what we use with all my people. And then watch my other videos. I have keto webinars, keto ebooks, like different things keto, and then work with us if you want help walking through that. But this is just some justification or validation for like why you should try keto if you have MS or have anything neurodegenerative or neuroinflammatory, why it could be beneficial.